For many people, the fatigue of comic book movies has been something they've felt for some time, and in regards to Marvel, they've been pumping out films and TV shows like there's no time to lose. And so when it comes to their latest film, The Marvels, there hasn't been that much excitement around it for a couple of reasons. One being that this film has gone through many different reshoots and has been quite the production hell, and even with its marketing campaign, Marvel hasn't really pushed it that much compared to other films, and so if they're not believing in their own film, why should you? And secondly, due to the burnout people have had of these films, they're not even bothering going to the cinema to see them, and if they do see them, they might see them on Disney Plus when they get released on there, or just not bother watching them at all. So the expectations going into the Marvels was quite low, but how is the film? I think it actually was worse than I expected. It really was a disjointed mess. But to start off with a positive, the three main leads do have good chemistry. The issue is their story is so lacking that it never gets a chance to flourish. Firstly, on the main player, Captain Marvel, I think she is more of a likeable and free-flowing character this time round. However, she's not the most consistent of characters because at times it does feel like we're watching Brie Larson with that attitude of, you know, a number of fans hate me, hate my character, why should I even bother trying? That wasn't there all the time, like I said, but we did notice it here and there. Monica Rambeau joins up after having an important role in the WandaVision series, and she's a character who has a conflict with Captain Marvel throughout the film, but it does get resolved quite easily, and compared to the other two, she is pushed more to the side, but from what we're left with, it does seem that we'll get more of her story later on. But the standout member from this trio is Kamala Khan, aka Miss Marvel. The actress behind her, Iman Vellani, does bring the most energy and enthusiasm to the film, but I would be lying not to say that her constant blubbering and purring after Captain Marvel did get a bit tiring. Like, it was very much that sort of thing, all fangirling over Captain Marvel, and I understand that that is a big part of her character, but when we're with these people throughout the whole journey of the film, you'd hope that we'll get past that a bit quicker and move on to some more important things between these characters, like even a scene where Kamala can, you know, express clearly why she's so infatuated and, you know, the impact of Captain Marvel on her upbringing. And yeah, we may have already seen this conveyed in the Miss Marvel TV show, but now she's actually opposite her idol, it would have been much more interesting to see this. And even in the film, there's actually a moment where she's questioning the actions of her idol, Captain Marvel, what she's doing. And you know, it's that whole phrase, never meet your heroes. And that was a common trend throughout the film, where they'd introduce an intriguing dynamic, but cut it short and not develop it any further.
That'll do, Donkey. That'll do.
So that's the three main characters, but why are they all together? Well, that's because they're linked through quantum entanglement, which means if they use their powers, they switch places. This whole gimmick has been prominent in the marketing for the film, and it works here and there, like for some of the action scenes it gives it a bit of a new flavour, but what I'd say is that a lot of the action feels so insubstantial because the story is so weak, which I'll get to in a minute. But also with these characters, they're just using those energy beams and it is a bit boring. Like, at least with Miss Marvel, she can be a bit more creative in what she does, like, you know, creating mid-air stepping stones to get a height advantage, for example. It does at times not follow its own rule set, and that does contribute to it becoming older much quicker and instead looking like the embodiment of somebody sat on their TV remote. In terms of the plot, we have our villain Dar-Benn, who is the new leader of the Kree. She retrieves one half of the quantum bands, of course with Miss Marvel having the other half. Dar-Benn harnesses the power and pairs it with her staff, which is named the Universal Weapon, and with this power she's able to make jump points in space. The reason she wants to do that is because on her home planet Hala, there was a conflict, a civil war among the Kree species, which left the planet barren of its air, water and sunlight, and so she's going to other planets to get those back and restore her planet. So yeah, if you're a fan of Spaceballs, you'll probably see some comparisons here, but yeah, this is just such a ridiculous story that you just have to understand the people involved to really get invested, and you don't, because a lot of what happens here has happened off screen, or we get real little snippets here and there, like we've missed a whole film in between this one and the original Captain Marvel. Dar-Benn refers to Carol Danvers as the Annihilator, and we do learn why that's the case, but it's all done so quickly. And that's the thing, everything is just sort of rushed here and there, and the film feels really badly edited, and that's probably because of all these reshoots. They had to shorten the runtime because the film is quite short, it's about an hour and 40 minutes, and it does feel like there is so much missing where they really needed to have these scenes here. But instead we get plenty of scenes which feel like they should be deleted scenes, like ones involving a planet where we have these singing people, which, you know, I understand that's part of the story in terms of why we're going to that planet, but these people and this scene just goes on for so long, it's like, oh goodness gracious, please hurry up and finish it. And then also we have a whole cat sequence as well, which, why did we need it in the film at all? And Dar-Benn as a villain anyway isn't very good. I mean, the dialogue she has is pretty terrible, and, you know, for Marvel this isn't something new though. I mean, they've had many bad villains throughout the years, but yeah, this one's probably right down near the bottom. And just going into those scenes a bit further, that singing planet, I mean, it could have potentially worked, but they had to execute it perfectly and they didn't. And so instead we're just looking at Captain Marvel becoming a Disney princess with Goose the cat as her animal sidekick. And speaking of Goose, let's get onto that cat scene I mentioned where we have multiple Flerkens involved. And when you think about what they're doing, there are so many other options they could have gone for ahead of this, but they went for this one because it's more silly and because it's more of that, you know, meme mentality ahead of story where let's get the cats on screen, people are going to love this, it's great in the moment, but is it actually good when you look at the whole grand scheme of things? Not really. By the way, Nick Fury is involved here, and he's in the film quite a bit, but mostly as a comic relief character, and I bloody hope he's a Skrull because he seems so far away from the Nick Fury we've known all this time. You know, he'd always have a good line here and there, but his comedy would usually come much more naturally through calling out the superheroes bullshit, you know? So yeah, I wasn't a fan of him taking this position in this film. The highly criticised Marvel comedy is still in this film, but at least it's not as overbearing as like we saw in Thor: Love and Thunder.
I think it's time for your first beer. What do you say?
What the fuck are you doing?
Kamala Khan's family are in the film with her mum taking centre stage, but it's interesting that they're not very fazed by the fact they've been thrown into the middle of a space battle. They are actually in the film much more than I thought they would be, but that might be due to the fact that the people working under Nick Fury are bloody stupid. I mean, these people, how have they got that responsibility? I have no idea. If you want to, you can really dissect this film and criticise it further, because if you just think about some of the actions that happen here, it is a case where you think to yourself, yeah, Captain Marvel, she's obviously withholding her powers, because what we've seen her do in the past, this should be easy meat for her. And so when I look back on the Marvels, I'm going to think about action that passed me by, exposition dump here and there, scenes that have no place in a Marvel film and are just useless to the overall plot. You know, at least though it was a short runtime, but some of that makes me think, was it due to stage fright? You know, they don't want to be out there too long and be exposed, so they get more hate. But, you know, it really was such a disappointment. So much so that the end credit scene, which would have got me excited in the past, just fell flat. And if you look at Marvel in the past, we would get these teasers which will be from one film to the next, so it wouldn't be that long until we get to see the reveal of what they're teasing. But now, it's taken years. I mean, look at Adam Warlock, that took ages, and now we've got Harry Styles, Kit Harington's Black Knight, we've got bloody Clea from Doctor Strange 2, we've got Hercules after Thor: Love and Thunder. These are all characters we're waiting to see. When will we see them, if we will ever see them? And it comes across as Marvel having such little faith in their current film that they want to focus on the bigger picture. You know, if you didn't like that, well, we've got this coming up, so just wait half a decade.
Well, this sucks.
But ultimately for the Marvels, I think it was a complete mess of a film. I think for many people they'll see it as a waste of time and will question Marvel's standards and how they've sunk so low. With any mess though, people will pick through it and find some enjoyment, and if that's you, that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed the film. I'll be very intrigued to see your thoughts in the comments below, and likewise for those who didn't like the film like myself, what were your thoughts? What would you add to what I've already said? But for now, if you want to watch another video on screen, is my reaction to the Inside Out 2 teaser.